Welcome to Escaping Kasterborous, the podcast where we rewatch, reminisce, and review everything Doctor Who from 2005 to present. My name is Rich, and I'm joined by someone very much ready for me to rant for an hour about why the Weeping Angel should have never come back after Blink. It's Amy.
Yeah, he's not lying that time.
I know.
Accurate.
It's the hill I will continue to die on, and I don't understand why people disagree with me. Oh,
but we'll get to that.
Today's going to be a fun one. In case you haven't guessed by the mentions of Weeping Angels, we're talking about Blink.
Finally.
Arguably, and I agree with this, the greatest episode of Doctor Who ever made.
Yeah, I mean, I've not seen any classic Who, so I can't... Well, actually, I lie. I've seen Remembrance of the Daleks that you've shown me.
The only classic series, the only classic serial you need to see is Remembrance of the Daleks.
I've never seen any other classic Doctor Who.
I think we've discussed this on the podcast before. I need you to watch Genesis of the Daleks because it's just incredible.
Have you not shown me that one?
I don't think I have.
I thought you had.
Yeah. Oh, well,
I don't remember. But anyway, my point is...
Blink.
Agreed.
We're jumping straight into the deep end here. Blink is the best episode of Doctor Who ever made.
Wait. We have
Amy's
to
choice.
mention... No. We have to mention something completely different first.
I was getting to that.
Can I go ahead?
Okay, go on.
You sure?
Yeah.
Okay. It has been sadly 1 week since good old Bernard Cribbins has passed away.
Yeah.
And we just need to have a few moments talking about him and his pure
gonna get
greatness.
the initial sort of brain vomit about Blink out
I know.
before we dug into things, but yes, it has
But I
been.
would have forgotten.
It has been. It's been a couple of weeks since we last recorded. We were set to record a few weeks ago, and then, as I put on Twitter, things beyond our control got in the way that we couldn't record. So, yeah, that was an
As per
unfortunate
usual.
time. But we're here. But in unfortunately, as Amy has said, in the meantime, we did indeed lose Bernard Cribbins. A day that, at the end of the day, we all knew was coming. It's the one thing my dad always says, the one certainty in life is death. Thanks, Doug, you miserable bastard.
Good eye.
And yeah, we knew it was going to happen one day, and the news of Bernard's passing sent big emotional shockwaves through the community, both the actors, the people who produced the show, the people who've been watching it for years and years and years, and obviously us, because, you know, he was best known in Doctor Who as Wilf, Donna's granddad, a character who has, you know, a reasonable amount of screen time. We first see him in Voyage of the Damned, which is that the next Christmas special? I think it is.
I don't know.
I think it is.
Maybe.
So, yeah, it must be.
Did we not see him in The Runaway Bride?
Nope.
He wasn't in that.
Runaway Bride. Yeah, you see him first when David and Kylie Minogue beam down to Earth when they don't they? That's the first time we see Wilf. So yeah,
Okay.
he's coming up. Actually, this can be quite sad to see. But yeah, known very much so for Wilf, a character who we've seen bits and pieces of over the course of series 4 and into the specials, and made such a huge impact as a character that he is genuinely one of the, you know, widely regarded as one of the best characters in Doctor Who. Period.
I mean, I wouldn't disagree. He's such a fantastic actor and such a fantastic character. I mean, there was one quote that I saw that he said after his first episode of Doctor Who, New Who, was released. I say New Who because obviously he was in the movies with Peter Cushing.
We'll get to that, yeah.
And he said that kids were coming up to him in the street and calling him Grandad, and he was like, "That's so, like," I just thought that's so adorable because you just know that he is everyone's granddad, and it's just
he is Doctor Who's granddad. You know,
he's
even the Doctor himself saw Wilf as a pseudo father figure. Like confiding in him and respecting him in the same way that Wilf respected the Doctor so much.
Yeah.
Not only, you know, giving his granddaughter the most amazing time of her life, but also just as a person, Wilf just respected him so much. I mean, he seems to have a lot of respect for people, apart from Daleks and the Master, but like,
well, yeah.
The man loves everyone. And in terms of stories, I heard about how when he was on sets, he knew everyone by name. He'd be like running after the runners. You know, the bottom rung of TV and film production are the runners. They are the beating heart, I might add. But they are like the bottom rung, and he knew them all by name and was always so nice to people. And it doesn't surprise me. It's one of those people that when they get into their later life, when they unfortunately pass away, you're so happy they don't get outed as a nonce. Because I imagine how devastating that would be. It was like when Barry Chuckle died.
Yeah.
You know, it's such a huge part of our childhoods.
Protect him at all costs.
And thank goodness he didn't do any fiddling. And the same, I've just changed the tone.
I mean, there are decent people out there.
But like that, the fact that he has just been remembered as a guy whose career spanned 70 years.
Yeah, I mean, he was the voice
the
of
Wombles.
Yeah, the Wombles.
All the way through to doing Doctor Who, and of course, as Amy said, he played Detective Inspector Tom Campbell in Dalek Invasion Earth 2150 AD, which is one of my favourite films. And obviously, if you were watching Who Culture back in the day, I did a whole video about why the Peter Cushing films are excellent, and I've literally just rewatched them because they've just released new 4K steelbooks of them, which I obviously got.
Yeah.
And I watched 2150 AD again because it's so good, and it's Bernard Cribbins doing Doctor Who. That's kind of Doctor Who before he did Doctor Who.
Yeah,
so,
but he was also in Coronation Street, and he did loads of stuff on CBBC. He was just such, from what, you know, you can kind of tell of him, he was just such a lovely guy. I mean, Russell T Davies' Instagram post kind of summarised that in such a lovely, heartfelt way, and I really do think that, you know, he's going to leave such a hole in a lot of people's kind of memories in life, but we do still have him coming up in the 60th, is it the 60th anniversary?
The 60th, yes.
So we will get to see a little bit more of him.
That is going to be devastating to see. Like, obviously, if you saw the pictures of Bernard Cribbins on set for the 60th, he was in a wheelchair. Yeah. So obviously, you know, he's getting on a bit. What was he, 93?
93, I think.
So yeah, he's getting on a bit, and the fact that he's in the show at all,
it's incredible.
I don't think he took much convincing from Russell.
No.
I don't think anyone did. The fact that he's going to be back is going to be so special, and there's no disputing that it will be dedicated to him.
And you know that they're going to make absolute top notch of all of his takes, and they're going to put him in as much as possible.
Yeah, I'm not ready to just sit there and cry.
No.
Like,
but I mean, the fact that he was acting up until literally 2-3 months before he died is incredible.
Shows how committed he was to his craft and how much he was respected for it. And I'm pretty certain when it comes to all the awards ceremonies that are coming up into the new year, because normally they're earlier in the year, it's going to be a very, very difficult time.
He'll be one of those mentioned at, is it the BAFTAs that they usually do the lifetime achievement and stuff?
He will just get so much respect that he rightfully deserves, and it was a very, very sad day in the Whoniverse for that. But we do still have one more outing with Wilf. Thank you, Russell, for making that possible. It just with the circumstances of the 60th are already ridiculous. We discussed this last time, but the fact we do get Wilf back for one more go, one more paintballing,
one more journey,
one more of maybe a salute or two, and just
it was when everyone was
jokes.
It was when everyone was sharing the thing of
everyone with the same gif.
The bit at the end of the episode where David stood in the rain and he's like, "Oh, look up at the stars," and I'll think of
Yeah, it was
cries.
It was a really hard day. It's one of those things where the first tweet I saw was Lisa Mazumba, who's if you watched Newsround as a kid, you have a big old
oh my god, yeah.
nostalgia. I've loved Lisa's work for decades now, and that was the first tweet I saw was Lisa Mazumba tweeting that he'd passed away. And it's one of those things where it kind of hits you and it's like, oh no, it's so sad, but at the same time you know it's coming.
He lived such a full life, though.
Absolutely, I'm still terrified about Dick Van Dyke. I want the man to live. I want the man to live forever.
Just thinking
I love him
that.
To bits.
How old is he?
He's 96, 97.
Oh my god, he's knocking on a bit.
We were talking about this at work, and I had to show a clip from Mary Poppins Returns because he's there. He gets on a table and dances, and he was like 96 when they recorded it, and he just did it. And it's like, this guy is gonna live forever. That's gonna be a hard day, but yeah.
Cries.
Bernard Cribbins has unfortunately left us. It's been a tough week in the Whoniverse. And I'm sure you've all been thinking about the title, the memories you spent watching his work, be it Doctor Who, be it the Wombles, be it whatever else he did, apart from like everything.
Yeah.
And how, Doctor Who going forward, pretty certain Wilf is going to be a staple of the show forever.
Yeah.
No one's going to forget him.
Absolutely.
Every homage that can be paid will be paid. Mm-hmm. So, may you sleep well, Bernard. And we are going to miss you a lot. Anyway, welcome to my TED Talk about why the Weeping Angel should never come back again after Blink.
Truth.
So, broadcast on the 9th of June 2007. This was when Doctor Who did experiment with the Dr. Light episode in the last series.
Experiment. It was a Blue Peter competition.
Well, that was the villain, but the actual experimentation of making it Dr. Light, that was on
Russell. Oh, yeah. Mm.
Actually, I think it's on production budget or something. We talked about that before, but anyway,
I think it worked well.
The Dr. Light episodes are an interesting idea, and there were 3 of them in the Russell T Davies era. There were Love and Monsters, there was Turn Left in Series 4, and then, of course, there was Blink in Series 3. And this is Stephen Moffat's magnum opus.
Oh, yeah.
It is his Mona Lisa.
Yeah.
We all thought that, Empty Child and Dr. Dances, ain't nothing getting scarier than that.
Oh, boy.
Yeah, how wrong we
wrong.
were. Now, do you know what? First, straight out the gate, right? I've said this when we've done this podcast before, like, Dalek scared the crap out of me as a kid. It's one of the reasons I love Dalek so much. You get scared by something and you immediately love it. We were talking about Hot Fuzz at work today.
Okay.
We were talking about Edgar Wright films, and we were talking about Hot Fuzz and how, and I said I first watched it in like 2007 when it first came out, and it scared me to death. The sort of horror elements, the gore, the creepy hooded figures. As a kid, I was a wimp, like massive wimp when it comes to anything.
What do you mean as a kid?
Shush. Anything scary on like TV or film, I was like really bad with it. I just could not do it, and Hot Fuzz terrified me. And then I became like obsessed with Edgar Wright's work, and that's one of the things I took with me when I went to university and like used him as inspiration and so on and so forth. Anyway, Dalek scared me. Empty Child, Dr. Dances, already told you that mentally scarred me, and even now you watch Dr. Constantine change, still sends shivers down your spine because hell no. Blink, it didn't.
I didn't scare you.
First time I saw Blink, I was like, that was brilliant, and I'm not scared.
I'm
it was
sorry,
like, I don't know
what?
how. It's like, needle in a haystack. There's this one little bit of armor, and there's all this dart being thrown, and it's like 99.99% of the chance it's going to hit me right in the dick, and I'm going to be scared for the rest of my life. But for some reason, back in the day, Blink just didn't.
Oh, no.
And I don't know why.
No, I don't know why.
It just didn't.
I was watching it about half an hour ago, and I got goosebumps throughout 90% of the episode because it's just so bloody incredible. And I don't know how it didn't scare you. I literally used to watch. That's the thing. I used to watch that episode, and you'll know, the listeners. I'm going to try and explain this to you in a way that you can picture. When I get scared, I do a hand flappy thing. So my arms,
or you squeeze my leg.
My arms pinned to my sides, and my wrists are like loose.
If you picture a velociraptor getting electrocuted, or a T-Rex getting electrocuted, that's what happens.
Or a T-Rex trying to fly. That's what it's like. It's like I do that. I'm like flapping so that it's getting the excess energy of being scared out of my body. And it particularly happens when I'm being chased in a video game, or I'm watching someone be chased in a video game. That's when the arm flappies
This
happen.
is why you're so excited for Dead by Daylight, the board game, and not playing the video game.
Not Dead by Daylight, the video game.
It.
But my sister does it too. She claps. Like, when she's scared, she goes, because it's trying to get that excess energy out of your body that you just can't.
Was she frightened? I mean, I would say, stupid question. Was she frightened of the Weeping Angels?
We were absolutely terrified. We were screaming. We were, like, hiding behind pillows. I mean, how old were we? This was 2007.
2007, we'd been, what?
So we were 12.
12.
And, Laura was 14, but I was 12.
Still.
And, yeah, it's just one of them that is like, nope.
Yeah, I don't know what it was. I remember watching it and like really appreciating the story of it and what and how it was done, but just for some reason that thing that terrified other people just did not so much didn't land with me. It didn't cling. And it's like I genuinely cannot tell you why. There's been stuff in more recent years that scared me a lot, and Blink just wasn't one of them.
But you see, for me, I think it comes down to the being chased thing, because I don't like when there's no safety at the end. You know, when you're playing a video game and you're running and you're in a scene where you're running and you've got no what's the word I'm looking for? No point of safety that you can see coming up. There's sort of, and you're running and you're running and you're running and you're like, please, 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 please. And that it's that feeling, it's that not knowing when safety is going to be, because they're constantly pursuing you. And I think that's what scares me, is the fact that there's basically no way of ever stopping them pursuing you. Like, that's it. Once you've seen them, you're done. And it was that notion that I think scared me most. But also, just the incredible sound design and the incredible cinematic, like, the cinematography, that's the word I was looking for. It all just works in such a poignant way that you can't help but, even after all the iterations of the awful angels have come to pass, you still watch this episode and it's still scary, in my opinion.
Yeah, it's a majestically crafted episode. As soon as the credits rolls, I just said a masterpiece. Genuinely is an absolute masterpiece. It does so well. Obviously, being a Doctor Light episode, it's difficult to make people engage with it and stick with it. But the beauty of it is its simplicity. Here's a creature that sends people back in time. It feeds off potential energy, but that opening with Sally, the angel, being constantly thrown into shot, you're like, well, get on here. You got the peeling away the wallpaper and stuff happening, and like it's just sort of foreshadowing the whole conversation with the Doctor in the past and the present and so on and so forth. Like it's sort of doing that with, on a one-sided level, with the Doctor's writing behind the wallpaper. Yeah. So you're already being introduced to that being a facet of the episode. Same thing with seeing the angel over and over again. This is the threat. Easy peasy. You get that, there's that potential like corniness. The first shot in the police station when she's looking out the window at the really bad matte painting of the angels in the church, and then it zooms in on her eyes and you think, this is a bit more of a
explicit.
It's an explicit use of cinematography that's not implicit, if that makes sense. Like the way how what was it we were talking about? Was it last episode? Was it something before? Lazarus Experiment, I think it was. How loads and loads of the episode was shot on a Dutch angle. Was it Lazarus Experiment? It was one of them.
Yeah, it is.
Like, all this stuff was shot on a Dutch angle, and it's this implicit use of cinematography to tell you something's different and tell you something's wrong, trying to convey something. Most people won't notice that, but Blink, it does it so differently. It goes, here's a really obvious, super obvious zoom, way quicker than a camera would be, because you can tell it's done digitally.
It's done digitally, yeah.
And it's like, it's telling you to look. They are blinking. The episode's called Blink. Like, you've seen the next time from last week. Like, you know you can't blink, but here it is happening and the angels are gone. That's all you need to know. Like, the Doctor doing his exposition dump on the DVD, that was bound to happen.
Yeah.
But the thing is, they didn't open with it. They do this implicit exposition to say, this is what's going on. But they don't. The beauty of this, as we talked about before about Chris Chibnall's era of Who, the episodes treat you like an idiot. The writing treats you like an idiot. You need to have everything spelled out to you. There's no faith in the viewer. And honestly, that's what Moffat's early work and the Russell T Davies era does so well, is it doesn't think you're thick.
Yeah.
It's like, you're watching this. Let's give you ammunition. You can work it out yourself. We'll give you some hints. Yes, we'll give you an exposition dump towards the end. Yada, yada, yada. But let's let you work things out for yourself and you feel like you're part of it, because you're in the same position as Sally. And, oh Christ, what's he called?
Do you mean Larry?
Larry. Like
Sally and Larry.
Sally and Larry. You're part of that. It's a trio. There's those two and there's you. You're all in this together. High School Musical aside. And you go. Get lost in that world of derelict houses, rain and police stations.
And do you know what
get very scared.
Do you know what I really like about this episode was, we said it downstairs, that the pacing is so well done, because you wouldn't believe that they managed to fit this into, what was it, a 50-minute episode, a 45-minute episode? something like that.
Yeah, 45 minutes.
You wouldn't believe that they managed to tell that story in 45 minutes because you think there's so much to cram in. But actually watching it again made me realise just actually how little goes on. It's one of those incredible episodes that does a lot with a little and not a little with a lot. And it basically gets straight into the action, almost with Sally going into the house, and you think, oh, is this going to be like almost a cold open type thing? Is it a cold open?
Yes.
Yeah. But you think, oh, this is just going to be the setup for the rest of the episode, and then the doctor's going to come in. And when it does that sequence of her peeling off the wallpaper, it only needs that one section of a scene for you to go, oh, this is some clever crap going on here. And it draws you in so quickly. Because like you said, the framing of the angel being in the corner of her eye the whole time, in the reflection, looking out the window, and the guy turning up at the door, and just, I know that that's not in that scene, that's after the intro, but just everything to do with the pacing just works so spectacularly that it didn't need to do too much. It does everything it needs to do, basically in one scene, because that one scene kind of tells you this is how the story is, this is how it's going to go. You're going to get a lot of back and forth, a lot of looping, a lot of bootstrap paradox, that's really hard to say. And and sort of within the first 10-15 minutes of the episode, you've already got the whole episode spelled out for you of how it happens. And yet it doesn't get boring, because even though it repeats, it's like, oh, one person goes missing and lands in the past. Oh, a second person goes missing and lands in the past. It doesn't get boring. It's so... because it only happens twice, and I think that's the key thing, is that it doesn't overdo that mechanic. But
again, it doesn't treat you like an idiot. The episode
exactly.
lets you like work things out for yourself, and it is one of the best things about it. I mean, it's reminiscent of the Doctor not being there. You don't have somebody there to explain what's going on. You have to work it out for yourself. You get dribs and drabs and bits and pieces, but it is an absolute masterwork of Doctor Who.
But also, I don't think the fact that the Doctor's... hang on, wait, let me rephrase that sentence. I don't think the fact that the Doctor's not in it makes a difference. I hope you can all follow that sentence. Basically, what I'm trying to say is the fact that the Doctor isn't in it really doesn't matter, because you almost forget that it's a Doctor Who episode once all the titles roll. You go back to Sally and you're like, cool, we're sticking with this, because for once you actually don't want the Doctor to interrupt proceedings. You want to completely follow the story that she embarks on, because you want to know how the writing got on the wall. You want to know how the angel managed to throw a rock through the window. You want to know all these bits and pieces that are introduced within the first 2-3 minutes of the episode. And so the fact, I mean, personally, I watch this and I kind of think, I'm glad the Doctor's not in it, because the bits that he's in it are fine and they are expositionary and they're needed. But also the way he does the exposition, the way Stephen Moffat wrote the exposition is so clever. So, I mean, it's so Sherlock, isn't it? Just the way he kind of...
Well, it's the way that it's not thrown in your face.
Yeah.
The exposition is hard baked into the whole concept. It doesn't feel like an add-on to go, right, I think we might have lost people. Let's catch everyone up, which is we keep ragging on it. It's how the Chibnall era works. It's how the dialogue went. But I mean, you're saying about like going back to it and reappreciating it, and that actually leads into one of the questions. There's a bunch of questions.
Thank you so much.
About this episode. Obviously, I'm not surprised that's the case. But if you have been putting in the your questions on the Spotify Q&A feature, which has been an absolute godsend.
Yeah, it's really good.
Loads and loads of different names, loads of new people who've been able to contribute to this podcast's like question section. So many that there's like we can't answer every single one. But we have decided to do a Q&A episode at some point in the future, so stay tuned for that. Probably after this series, which is only technically in one episode time. So yeah. So many of these come through, and so many of them cover the same bases. There's a few that will be ones that I was very much expecting, and yes, there have been multiple of the same thing. So if you asked the same question as somebody and I said somebody else's name, it's not that I didn't see you. I did.
Yeah, we appreciate you.
Picked one of them that had that topic. Anyway, so Matt Gray asked that, like, this episode was initially scary to me over time, but over time it's become less so. Do you think that rewatching episodes can lead to these episodes losing impact and becoming boring in retrospect? Which is irrelevant to Blink, an interesting question that I don't think we've even had yet in terms of a rewatch.
I think it truly depends on how often you rewatch them. For example, Rich is a keen purveyor of constantly watching The Simpsons and Family Guy and American Dad on a loop.
Yeah, boy.
However, we've now moved on to NCIS, which is far better. But I think it truly depends on how often you watch them, because if you watch the same thing enough, of course you're going to get bored of it. However, I think the reason you rewatch things is to relive that kind of emotion that you felt the first time you watched it. For me, when I rewatch stuff, it's because I either need a comfort or I just really, really want to feel that nostalgia. So for me, it's things like the Harry Potter films and Pitch Perfect, stuff that I go back to frequently because it's really easy to watch. It's really comforting. It's really nice. It's really, like, it gives me a warm hug in cinema. And not that Blink gives you a warm hug. Like, do not. I'm not saying that at all. From a nostalgia perspective, it does. But from a nostalgia perspective, it totally does. And I think the reason you rewatch things like this is because you want that memory of how it felt the first time you watched it. And Blink was terrifying the first time I watched it. And sure, I don't get terrified like I used to, but it's kind of fun to rewatch things for the sake of added value. I mean, the reason we're doing this rewatch podcast is for the added value that we're getting from kind of semi-analysing everything. But I do think if you look at it in that way, yes, you could easily get bored of stuff, but I think it just depends on your temperament as well and your personality. Like, some people get bored of things more quickly than others. It really doesn't. I don't think it's a necessary thing. If you rewatch something 50 times, you get bored of it. Maybe if you did in quick succession, sure. I mean, there's a great example of there's a girl on YouTube called Elle Mills who not sure how many of you would have heard of her, but she became really popular through a video that she did of her coming out story. And she did a video where she watched the Lizzie McGuire movie on repeat for, I think it was 48 hours or something like that. And she literally only it was just a weird challenge. But even by the end of it, she was like, I don't think I hate it. I just think I'm bored of it.
I mean, talk about Hot Fuzz earlier. That was a film I could watch on repeat quite happily. It's just so good. I mean, as for going back to, like, as I said, I wasn't scared of Blink, so I don't look at it in that same way. I look at it as an overall piece of work and how well it was done. You kind of think, how does, especially when you look at Stephen Moffat, which I think is probably our next point, like, how does somebody create something so incredible like Blink, like The Empty Child Doctor Dances, and then some of his future work, and then go on to just produce some crap? I mean, not everyone can absolutely hit the nail on the head 100% of the time.
I don't think anybody can.
No, but it's sometimes so peculiar to see there's such a strange disparity between something like Blink and some of the stuff that we saw during Moffat's reign as showrunner between series 5 and 10. Like, not so much because obviously there have been episodes he's written that haven't been amazing in his era. There have been episodes that that weren't written by him that obviously still came out under his watch that were complete dog
trash.
Yeah, so it's like, it's weird to see this disparity.
But then do you also think that's partially down to the fact that it seems to be a bit of a trend that when you're a showrunner on Doctor Who, that you start off really, really well and you just taper towards the end. Although I think the only thing that breaks the mold on that is Russell. I don't think Russell really tapered too much, like, at all.
Not at
he
all.
Obviously had the odd flub episode here and there, but most of the time he was top notch. But the Stephen Moffat thing could have also been down to the fact that he was expelling a lot of his energy on Sherlock.
Well, that is true. I remember when Series 7 got split in half because of Sherlock production schedules, and everyone was just like, oh my god, God, I can't believe that Sherlock is messing up Doctor Who at the moment. And this was when Sherlock, I can't remember what series it would have been, but I think it was when Sherlock started to go downhill. And boy, did it go downhill. I haven't rewatched Sherlock in a long time.
No.
For precisely the reason of I don't want to put myself through series 1 and 2 being like
Incredible.
god tier TV, series 3 being and series 4 being a pile.
Awful.
Like, it's such a shame as well. But that actually leads us quite nicely onto Steph G95's question. Saying, with Weeping Angels and Empty Child being some of the scariest New Who monsters, do you think Moffat is best when leaning into that scary side rather than the whimsical edge he tries sometimes? And the simple answer to that is, yeah. That was one of the reasons why back in 2009, it would have been, I think it was announced, that David Tennant was leaving, and subsequently that Russell T Davies was leaving, and Stephen Moffat being appointed his successor. When you look back and think, I remember seeing Stephen Moffat thinking, what was his name? What did he do? Looking back at it, it's like, oh, he did Empty Child, Dr. Dances. Oh, he did Blink. He did Silence of the Library and Forest of the Dead. It's like, oh, good God, it's the guy.
Pretty good episodes.
Silence of the Library, Forest of the Dead scared me to death.
Yeah,
Blink didn't,
absolutely
but,
horrific.
Like, they are the episodes that terrified me, and that got me excited. I swear I've said this on EK before.
Probably.
I was so excited for Moffat to become showrunner because I was like, he's going to make Doctor Who flipping terrifying. I'm still waiting for some. I know that it's a family show, but I want there to be more instances of going. Even obviously today, we're nearly 30 now. Like, we don't.
Oh my God.
We don't get scared. We don't get scared in the same way as we did when we were 12 watching Blink.
Don't know. That just scared me.
Sorry, but like, I want there to be a showrunner to come back and properly lean into that side of, I want to make everyone's skin crawl, not just kids. I want to make everyone feel a bit uncomfortable because that's what Doctor Who is. It's scary.
Yeah.
And that was the hope I had with Moffat's era. And then I watched 11th Hour and I was like, okay.
I mean, I get it.
The only real episode of the Moffat era I can think of that did make my skin crawl would have been Night Terrors.
Night Terrors.
The kid with the doll's house.
Oh my God, I love that episode.
Yeah, that was terrifying.
Yo, that's a good episode. But I think the thing that obviously the whimsical side of Stephen Moffat is, yeah, okay, it wasn't quite what we expected, but a lot of the time it worked. I mean, I kind of don't understand why he went for Matt Smith's Doctor suddenly being far more alien than we were all used to. I mean, I know we're kind of getting into the territory of talking about more Stephen Moffat than the episode, but in the questions, for answering the question's sake, the fact that Matt Smith's Doctor became suddenly, I don't know what Earth is, I don't know what's this, like a proper alien would. It felt a bit disjointed from the Doctor that we'd known as David Tennant. I mean, I know that Eccleston had his small moments of being like, what's that? But it wasn't ever for pure comedic effect.
Well, it was for comedic effect.
It was, but it wasn't.
I know what you
so
mean. It wasn't
overdone.
a persistent character trait.
Yeah, it was. Yeah,
it was something that he did do better with Peter Capaldi when he had his flashcards, because it was not so much that he'd like almost lost this mentality. He'd become this more whimsical idiot of a character like Matt Smith's 11th Doctor was. Capaldi's 12th Doctor became this arrogant. It was his attitude that changed. It wasn't his sort of. I know that persona does change between Doctors, obviously, but like, yeah, Matt Smith's Doctor felt like such a departure. Capaldi's was like, this was kind of the idea that Moffat had, or this was the facet he thought he was going to change and challenge with 11th Doctor, and he did it better with the 12th, with him being arrogant, with him needing flashcards to show some compassion. I know that very much plays onto Peter Capaldi because everyone knows it was Malcolm Tucker. So good to the thick of it's been taken off Netflix. What a series!
Why cries?
Like, yeah, that's something that Capaldi's Doctor did a lot better.
But then I always think that the reason Capaldi's Doctor did that a lot better is because of the fact that he's a grumpy old man, and not because of the fact that he's an alien. Because it's kind of something that we as millennials have to deal with a lot, is the grumpy older generation not caring enough to learn. And I feel like that is something
This
that...
is the epitome of modern boomers, isn't it?
Like, Peter Peter Capaldi kind of reflected that almost I'm a grumpy old man attitude, so I'm not going to bother trying to learn who you are or what this is. Whereas Matt Smith's Doctor was the youngest Doctor we'd ever had. Yeah. Is he still the youngest Doctor we've ever had, or is Ncuti Gatwa going to be younger than him?
I don't know. I think that still goes to Matt.
But
yeah, Ncuti Gatwa was 29.
Oh, and how old was Matt? Was he like 24, 25
he was
when
like
he got cast?
I think he was been 24, 25, 26 or something, yeah.
So that's why it felt so jarring, was because Matt Smith's Doctor was young, and he was, obviously, to us, he was an adult, but he kind of plays that, almost that too childlike nature of not knowing what stuff is and not being grown up enough to understand what stuff is. And I get that he was the youngest Doctor, but I still think we should have seen a more... Because he was so emotionally mature for a Doctor, and not as mature as Eccleston and David's Doctor were, but at times, he is this very, very emotionally mature Doctor, and I think that's why it was so jarring, this whimsical side of him, because it was like, are you going for the childlike nature of not knowing what anything is, or are you going for the emotionally mature, I understand because I'm 1,000 years old kind of thing? It felt like a weird juxtaposition, and I'm not sure that both of it worked all the time.
Yeah.
But
anyway, getting a bit off topic, as we always do here on EK.
We were answering the question.
So, yeah. Going back to the episode, and there's a couple, obviously, there are questions that all revolve around the same thing, because I feel, we've talked about the episode itself. It's almost like it's so good, there's almost so little to talk about, because the story is so straightforward, and its execution, yes, it's fantastic. Like, it's amazing. There's almost like, okay, we've talked about the amazing stuff. The biggest talking point, based on all the questions that have come in for this episode and just the general conversation around Blink as a whole, and that's the future. That is where we go from here. So obviously there's a couple of questions, massive questions about this, and obviously I opened the episode by saying it's time to talk about why the Angels should have never come back.
Yeah.
Why asks, you said you think Weeping Angels works better as a one-off. Yep.
Yeah.
But would you say the Village of the Angels is a good and justified angel story? Now, without going...
Remind me which one that is.
Village of the Angels is the most recent angel story in
That's
series
what I thought.
13.
That's what I thought.
I think, rather than... We're not going to go too deep into this, because obviously we're going to go way down a rabbit hole of another episode entirely that literally aired 15 years later.
Yeah.
Village of the Angels is the best of the rest. It was a way more solid story than I ever expected, especially within the Chibnall era, which, overall has not been very good.
But then did Chibnall write Village of the Angels?
He didn't write it, no. It was like a co-writing credit or something.
Well, then there you go. Sorry.
But yeah, it's the only episode I would say that hasn't been a complete dumpster fire. It definitely played upon more interesting horror trope. It played upon more interesting horror scenarios than the other Angel episodes attempted to do.
Yeah.
So the Village of the Angels is definitely the best of the rest. Doesn't mean it should have been made, though.
No, I mean, it's definitely... If you were to ignore the fact that everything else in between was made and just look at those two... Village of the Angels is the closest predecessor to Blink that we got. However, does not necessarily mean it was a particularly good episode. I think it was good on Chibnall's terms. And like I said, he didn't actually write it. He was co-writer credit, which basically means that he input for the overarching plot and not much more. But the problem with the Village of the Angels is that you still get way too disappointed by the outcome of the episode, and obviously we'll go down this into a lot more detail when we eventually get to rewatching Chibnall's era. But the fact that at the end they give you this teaser of the Doctor turning into an angel, and then the next episode it's just like, but gone. Not happens, doesn't matter, nothing relevant, just a bit of a transport, kind of ruins it. Because up to that point, it was such a good throwback to the original feeling of the Angels, is having to introduce people to them, having to get them to understand why they're so dangerous, why they're so scary. You get that whole situation of them infiltrating the house and coming in all the different entrances, and only one guy being able to fight them off by staring at them, and the lights being fake, all the good tropes that you had in this episode. But there was a lot of characters in Village of the Angels. There was the parents or the grandparents or whatever they were that went missing, the little girl that goes missing. There was, you know, what was her name? The
I'm trying to think. I can't
psychic.
remember. Yeah. And then there was the professor.
The professor, and then there was the doctor herself, and then there was Yaz, and there was Dan. I went to call him John. I was like, no, that's his real name. So there's all sorts of, and I think the reason Blink works so much better is because there's basically only 4 characters in the whole episode, other than the Doctor and Martha.
As we said, it's a stripped back story because of production schedules and
that's
stuff
why
they had to do with the
works.
Doctor light, and it works so well.
But Village of the Angels is sadly a bit one of those. I mean, it is like you said, it's the best out of a bad bunch. The rest of them should never have been made. And Village of the Angels
shouldn't have been made apart from Blink.
Village of the Angels would have had so much more impact had it been the first since Blink. Yeah. But it's just been so let down by what came before it, and all of its predecessors just kind of ruined it to the point where it's like, yeah, it's great, but also it's another Angels.
Like I said, I don't understand the people that get excited with the Angels coming back. Like, I get that they scared you. I get that you like them as an alien, as an enemy, but they peaked with their opening episode, and that means they should have never come back. Just to sort of go through, there's a couple of questions I've got here that are all kind of under the same umbrella.
Yeah.
I thought when I was putting them into a document to whittle them down, I thought, these will be different enough. And it's like, no, in reality, these are all going to, we can kind of cover these all with the same old brush.
Let's do it. Quick fire questions.
Exactly. So, Dalek42 asked about, do you think their explanations in their later reappearances, like seeing them moving in Series 5, of how the Angels work, make them less scary?
Oh, absolutely.
There's a couple of them. I was going to put these all together and we'll kind of answer them as a big group. Where is it?
You mean you didn't put them in order?
I did. Melissa asked about whether she thinks it's the best Weeping Angel story. In the next few times we see them, additional lore is given. They start to become less simplistic and therefore less scary. Do you think they should have been left off as a one-off villain? Obviously, yes.
Yep.
That is the thing. When they were coming back to the Angels, obviously being so popular, like the Weeping Angels are, I'd argue they're like the Daleks of New Who. Back in the 60s, the Daleks exploded. Dalek Mania was a thing. There's a whole documentary about it. And it just, like, everyone loved the Daleks. They were there constantly. That's why the movies got made with Peter Cushing. It's why they kept coming back over and over and over again. It's why they were so popular. It's why the show succeeded at the end of the day.
And they're still so popular.
And they're still amazing. Have you seen my shelving? They've
Obviously.
just literally, as of like the other day, they announced some new Dalek models from character options. Luckily for my wallet, none of them that I'm immediately going to buy. So
thank God.
I'm okay.
But also, Richard, have I seen your shelving? I literally live with you.
I didn't ask that to you, Dumbo.
Well,
but yeah, like the Weeping Angels were this huge phenomenon in Doctor Who. Like David Tennant was like the first big un, and then it was the Angels as well. So it's like, and it was, as I said, Moffat's magnum opus. He comes back as the showrunner. He was gonna bring him back in some way, shape, or form, and it was in The Time of Angels and Flesh and Stone.
Yeah.
Whatever which way round it is. I think it's Flesh and Stone and The Time of Angels. I can't remember. Either way,
I don't know.
I don't remember that because I
think it's Flesh and Stone first.
Yeah. I didn't like that two-parter. I was still at this time, and even in the series, I'm looking forward to getting to Series 5 because I remember watching Series 5 and not being sure about Matt Smith's Doctor.
But then was that because we were so attached to David? Because,
No.
I mean...
Because I look back at his first series and I was like, his first series was probably still his strongest, but I'm still not. I was never convinced by his character. There are things about his character that I'm still not convinced by. I stand by it. When Matt Smith gets angry, he sounds like Bubbles DeVere. So genuinely, right? You get to the right.
Bubbles, darling.
Yeah, right. Go back when we watch it again. Watch Asylum of the Daleks, one of the most disappointing Dalek stories. So much potential, completely cocked it up. Right at the start, he gets put in front of the Dalek Parliament. And he goes, "At long last, here I am." Yeah. It's like you sound like Matt Lucas playing Bubbles DeVere, for God's sake. Anyway, I've lost my point.
Your point was about Flesh
Time
and
of Angels,
Stone.
Flesh and Stone. Like they have to do something. Like there are people who think Angel Bob is brilliant, and I'm like, yeah, I can understand. It's very much playing on that idea of the consciousness remaining to some extent. It's like exactly what happened in Forest of the Dead in series 4. That little party clinging back onto life. It's still kind of there, but obviously Angel Bob uses it in a malicious intent. And it's like, you know, oh, they snapped my neck. It's like it's brutal, it's dark, but it's again, these are the things as Melissa has said about how they keep explaining things and it makes it less scary. It's that thing where they don't they're answering questions nobody had or nobody should have
nobody
been
needed.
Asking. Like there'll be the people that will always dig into that. Like what was Sally doing in the house? I can't remember whether she was like just exploring.
She was. She just said. I mean, was it her friend Kathy?
Kathy at the start.
Kathy goes, "Why the hell were you here?" And she goes, "I like it. It's old, and I like old things. They make me sad." And Kathy goes, "But what's good about being sad?"
Exactly.
And
it's
that's
like,
all the explanation you need.
There are certain things you don't need to dig into.
She just is an explorer.
Like the beauty of the angels, as we've discussed with other creatures, especially when we get to next series, like the Midnight Entity. We don't. You don't need to know anymore because
it'd
just
be like
worked.
them giving a body to the Midnight Entity,
giving the body
can you imagine
a backstory.
How
They're just
bad that
and then
would
showing
be?
them moving. Like at no point does showing the angels moving make them scary.
No, it actually
removes.
Yeah,
it removes everything about them that was scary. It's like, why are we seeing them move?
Because also, doesn't that just completely negate everything that David explains in this episode, that the Doctor says they can't move when they're being observed, and you kind of, the way that Moffat writes this episode is that includes us as the viewer. When we are observing the angels, they don't move. Even, like, yes, the characters in the episode are staring at them, yes, they're not blinking, but when we observe them, they don't move. And that kind of is what bridges the gap between the in-show and the breaking the fourth wall kind of thing, is that at no point do we, as a viewer, ever see them move, because that completely removes what is scary about them. If we saw them move, it would be like, but hang on a minute, why are we being told that they can't move if they're being looked at, and yet we're looking at them and they're moving? And I really think that that's what Moffat ruined in Flesh and Stone, because it removes you from the scary element, and it makes you kind of think, well, hang on a minute, why this isn't scary, because I can now clearly see that they're not these otherworldly creatures that the Doctor explains in Blink, because he says that that you don't even know what they are when they're not stone. And that's the point of what makes them scary, is the fact that when they're not stone, that's the scary part.
I always picture them not looking like stone, but when they move, they're still stone. It's like, I thought they would become flesh and blood again, and then bada boom, they're stone again.
No, see, I don't even picture them as flesh and blood. I picture them as kind of like this weird gaseous entity thing that just exists.
Right.
Like, but that's what kind of upsets me about the fact that we see them move in Flesh and Stone, is why? Why does nobody needs to see them move? Because that totally removes the whole purpose. The fact that they can move means they shouldn't be being observed. Okay, it's just so annoying.
I'm gonna coin this for the old history books, for the Doctor Who historians that are listening. When you write about Blink on the 100th anniversary of the episode's airing in 2107, I would like you to talk, to cite Amy as well, I guess.
Sure, why not?
And when you talk about the way that the character, the idea of the Weeping Angels was completely removed by continuing to expand on it, it's called the Russell Howard conundrum.
Wow, rude.
I think I've said this before on this podcast.
No, you've said it to me. I'm not sure if you've said it on the podcast.
He ruins all of his jokes by over-explaining them. So
I like Russell Howard, okay?
I know. I like him as well, but he just needs to stop his little jokes about 2/3 of the way through and then they'll remain funny.
Yeah, right.
It's the Russell Howard conundrum. So
I think actually it's the Chris Chibnall conundrum.
No.
Over-explaining everything.
And then after that, like, obviously they had to keep trying to up the stakes. Like, as we've said, the beauty of Blink is in the simplicity.
Yeah.
Flesh and stone, etc. It's like, Amy's turning into an angel. The image of an angel can itself become an angel, which automatically just paradoxes so much.
Yeah.
What a stupid decision from Russell. From Stephen to make.
If you think about it, the fact that the image of an angel becomes an angel means that all of those photos that Sally gave the Doctor would automatically then become angels, and
it's trying to do that thing. So the episode, for example, go back to Blink specifically, the episode ends with the whole montage of looking at statues, and Moffat's work very much leans into, let's take something y'all know and let's make it scary. Let's use statues, let's use shadows,
let's use blinking.
Let's maybe take something that was already creepy enough during a time that was not great for people to remember, i.e. gas masks, terrifying, in the Second World War, not a nice time. Let's make it even scarier because screw you and your nightmares.
Yeah, sure, why not?
That's what Moffat did. And it's like, let's try and take it to the next step, really. It's like, the image, people have got wallpapers and cut out standees of the Weeping Angels, because obviously, as similar to Daleks in the 60s, they could merchandise the crap out of it.
Angel
and
Mania.
lo and behold, they did. And it's like, okay, now you've got these Weeping Angel toys in your house. They can now become angels according to the show, just to try and creep you out a bit more. It's like, nice try, mate, but that's, as I said, that's just paradoxed a hell of a lot of stuff. Remember when, spoilers for Fantastic Beasts, remember when it was like, oh, you're a Dumbledore, and everyone just went, but how?
Why?
How's that going to work?
Yeah.
And obviously they did kind of make it work, but so very unceremoniously and stupid.
Did they? That's anyway, a whole nother podcast.
But that's that whole thing. Like, you didn't, like, you just tried to add something to it and you kind of balls it up in the process. And then Angels Take Manhattan, good God, it's the worst of the lot.
It's not good. Because it's
like, okay, let's have cherubs. It's like, cool, a Weeping Angel variant.
Yeah,
nice. That's
why?
what we all wanted. And then, again, another stupid decision that would make absolutely zero sense, the Statue of Liberty as well. It's like, come on.
I mean...
literally, at no point in time, at no point ever since it was first erected, has the Statue of Liberty not been looked at.
I know.
It's one of the, it's like, yes, it's Doctor Who, yes, it's Alien, yes, it's not meant to be real, but at the same time, it's like, the beauty, the thing that makes Doctor Who episodes scary, the thing that makes the Weeping Angel scary is the fact that their fundamental, like, asset over you is based in reality, is grounded in reality. As soon as you break that, they lose all of their potential. They lose all of their fear factor. They lose themselves. So,
and also, it's more to the point of kind of like, I understand that the idea behind using the cherubs and using the Statue of Liberty is to kind of be like, they're everywhere. But it's, the Weeping Angels don't just like have kids. Do you know what I mean? Like, they breed off of the time energy. That's what the Doctor said, right? So he might not have said that in this episode, but it's been established that they thrive on this time energy. So in my head, that means the more they get the time energy, the more they can multiply. I see it as multiplying rather than breeding.
Yeah, I don't.
Do you know what I mean?
It'd be quite interesting if somebody like nipped outside and saw two angels doggy
shagging
style in their garden. It's like, whoops.
But my point is, the whole the reason I picture the angels as this kind of weird gaseous entity, gaseous. I don't know if I'm saying that right. Gaseous. Is because they have one form that they permanently freeze into when they're observed. So, I mean, yeah, okay, maybe that would be more representative of, like, them actually being flesh or something like that. But the way I see it is that the cherubs just... why do they exist? Because, I mean, if the angels only have one form when they're observed, which we've clearly seen in this episode, they all look exactly the same, then... How do these weird cherub things come to exist? How does the Statue of Liberty come to exist. Do you know what I mean? Like, it doesn't have any links to what we already know, and it's removed that whole... The reason they're so good is because they're a silent enemy. I think that, like, is a key point, because they don't talk, because they don't threaten you, because they don't reveal their big master plan. They just do. They are straight up doers. They don't care. They don't hang around. As soon as you see them, that's it. You're basically dead. And that gets removed by Angel Bob and the whole situation, because there's no way in Flesh and Stone and what is the other one called? Valley of the Angels, whatever the bloody hell you want to call it.
Time of Angels.
Time of Angels.
And Angels Take Manhattan.
They physically can't observe all of them, ever, at all, at any point, especially when they're in that huge cave.
Blink is given so much leeway, but again, from a story perspective, from a storytelling perspective, it's like the ellipsis of time, where there's a 10-second countdown that lasts for 45 seconds worth of screen time. That's they can play with it, and if you want to go and pick away at it, then by all means, and go wank yourself off, and no one cares that you're trying to point out that that's not technically correct. But like, when you're working with 4 angels, it's a little bit more. You get a bit more leeway. Yeah, because
I'm pretty sure you only ever see 4 or 5 altogether.
It is only 4, because obviously by the time it finishes, there's only 4 of them there, and he's treated the doctor's treated them all.
That's true. I thought there was more in the basement of the police station, but that could just be me.
I think it could have just been how they shot them.
Yeah. But yeah, I think that's what makes it so scary, because there's less of them. Like you said with Dalek, the reason Dalek is such a good episode is because it shows how terrifyingly overpowering the Daleks can be. And yet you've suddenly got armies and armies of them that can't defeat one person.
Yeah.
It's Angels Take Manhattan. The only true good part of that episode for me is the fact that the angels are the reason that Amy and Rory leave the series. That's the only good... But even then, it's not because it's the angels. The reason I enjoy that bit so much is because of the emotion behind Amy and Rory leaving, because Rory obviously gets taken and Amy follows suit, spoilers. But it's very much, for me, it's not the fact that they're angels. It could have been any threat that did that. So the emotional goodbye is just tied to the angels because they're in that episode, but really it honestly makes it kind of less impactful, the fact that it's the angels that did it. But also we got such an emotional goodbye with them falling off the roof, and then it's
that's the only good thing about that episode, in my opinion.
That like they then they fell off the roof because it's the Statue of Liberty. Great, but
they
could have just
the paradox, or
you could have just had them in peril. Do you know what I mean? Like it's
that's a conversation to have.
I know.
Once we get to time where
but we're talking of all things angel. Do you know what I mean? It's such a shame.
So just going back to the sort of the ellipsis of time thing I mentioned earlier, Hannah asked a question that I definitely started to. I didn't stick with it, but she asked whether we've tried not blinking in the same way that Larry couldn't when he was having a staring contest with that angel.
Every time I watch this episode, I do that.
Oh yeah, it's like holding your breath when somebody goes underwater in a film.
Single time, different. I physically sit there and I stare at the screen, and I'm like, right, I'm going to try not to blink for the amount of time that Larry doesn't blink, and every single time I fail.
But the thing is, the benefit that he has got narratively is the fact that he's scared. I think if you were in that situation genuinely, it'd be a very different story.
Yeah,
yes,
because the adrenaline.
Yes, Hannah, we did. So obviously we talked about how good the episode is, how its legacy was tainted by... I think it was tainted. It wasn't tainted. Blink itself is still an absolute masterpiece. There is no question about it. The creatures going forwards lost all of their
chutzpah.
Yeah, that's the kind of word I was looking for. Their oomph, as we say, because of it trying to expand them, trying to do more, trying to do something different with them. It's like you don't have to. Just leave them in their own little world. Let Blink
exist on its own.
What's the word? Stew.
Stew?
Let it stew. Let it run through your veins.
I don't think stew is the right word.
You can have good stew. If you leave a tea bag in, that's stewing it in a bad way. If you have a good stew, it's like good soup.
Good soup.
Good stew.
Good soup.
Good stew.
There's a word for it though. It's kind of like ruminating. That's a good word.
Ruminating?
Yeah, do you not know what ruminating
just make that
is?
up.
No, it's a real word, I promise. Ruminating is kind of I can't explain it without using the word ruminate. It's basically...
Okay, Google. What does ruminating mean? To think deeply about something, or of a ruminant, chew the chud.
Chew the chud. It's basically stewing.
Chew the cud or sud. I don't know.
Cud. It's cud. It's what cows create when they eat grass.
I want chud though.
Cud is the word you're looking for. Yeah, ruminating basically means to kind of think deeply on itself, or to let things stew, as it were, because you kind of...
So I was right with stew.
You sort
Stop
of
trying
were.
to sound smart.
But ruminating is a great word, and I've taught you something.
So is stew.
Yes, shush. Not the point.
So, to wrap up, the final question that I've got for us today, and it was one that was asked by a bunch of people, actually. This came from Leon, and said that Vera on the YouTube channel Council of Geeks recommends Blink as the episode for someone watching for the first time should start with. Do you agree, or do you recommend another starting point?
Disagree.
There are two sides of this for me. The grand scheme of things, I agree with you, Ames. Yeah, disagree with that. If you're going to start, you start with 9. Don't skip 9. Don't be a bellend. But if you are wanting to give somebody the kind of vibe, or show somebody like the pinnacle of Doctor Who, you go with Blink. Mm-hmm. Back when I was at What Culture, I was gutted I couldn't get to do this. Obviously, I did Who Culture, and Ash, who's now at PlayStation Access, did What Culture Horror. And I wanted to do a video where I sat Ash down and I made her watch Blink. Because I'm like, this is like the most horror-centric episode of Doctor Who. It's the best episode of Doctor Who. It's the scariest episode of Doctor Who. I want you to sit down and watch it with me. I'll watch it as the guy who's seen it before a million times. I want you to watch it as the newbie. God damn it, Ash. She'd already seen Blink.
Cries.
And she's not a massive Doctor Who fan, but she'd seen Blink.
Well, she's a horror fan.
In that particular instance of like, you know somebody who likes horror, and you think, you should watch Doctor Who, I think you'd really like it, and you think, let's just drop them in at the deep end somewhere and then get them to go back and watch it. Yes, I can understand why you'd start somebody off with Blink, but it is not a starting point to then continue on from. You can get somebody their foot in the door with Blink, and then you tell them to go back and start with Rose.
I disagree. I personally disagree. The reason I disagree is because you're literally showing them the peak of Doctor Who, and it will never be that good again. But second of all, is because it's a Doctor Light episode, so it's not a good reflection of what the series is. Just because it's one of the best episodes, if not the best episode of New Who, does not mean you should start there, because you're not going to have a clue what's going on. Even if it is a Doctor Light episode, not going to make any sense. And purely kind of because you miss out on a hell of a lot if you start with Blink. I mean, as Rich said, don't skip 9. But the reason we say don't skip 9 isn't because 9 is Rich's favourite. It's because you can't skip it. Because coming into David's series, even like just as a whole, you miss so much and you don't understand the wider universe in the same way that you do if you watch 9. And I feel like with Blink, it's so simplistic in what it does, but it also is so good at what it does that you really don't experience Doctor Who in a nutshell in this one episode. You barely experience Doctor Who at all. The only parts of Doctor Who that you get in this episode are the wibbly-wobbly, timey-wimey bits with the writing on the wall and the transcript. But that's basically it. The rest of it is just a little horror kind of short story of what happened to a girl in a town who went and explored a spooky house. I would not recommend it as the first episode, because the first episode people watch, you want to encapsulate what Doctor Who is all about. And any episode halfway through a series is not going to do that. It's not going to lay down the laws of the universe for you to pick up on. And it's not going to introduce you to characters that you're ever going to see again. Like, we never see Sally and Larry again. We never see, and so you just, why would you start with the peak? You never, if you're climbing a mountain, you don't start at the top, do you?
It's true.
You work your way up, because you need to,
that was very deep.
Thank you. Doctor, I should get that as a tattoo, lol. Or a quote on the wall, kitchen wall, in cursive, with
I'm
butterflies.
Going to leave you.
Yeah,
the wedding's off.
Bye. But I've lost my point now.
Live, laugh, love.
No.
That was your point.
No.
Yeah, you are right. You start with the top.
Yeah.
The pinnacle.
So you wouldn't start at the top, because that was my point. The reason Doctor Who is so good on the whole, as literally every episode of Doctor Who, is because of the fact that there are some crap episodes and there are some great episodes. If you skip any of them, even the really, really bad ones, it doesn't give you anything to look forward to when there's going to be a good one. And so if you start with Blink, you're basically saying, this is the peak, it all down here from here. And it's kind of like, why would you do that to somebody? Why? I would never recommend it as the first episode, in my opinion. But that's just me. I don't know what I would recommend. But
I would recommend Rose.
Yeah, well, obviously.
Series 1, Episode 1.
Is Series 1, Episode 1?
Yeah, absolutely. No, you're very right on that one. I can understand showing somebody Blink as a very specific case, but yeah, you start with Rose.
Mm-hmm.
Simple as that. And as said, on that bombshell, that should about wrap things up. There were a bunch of questions about Carey Mulligan becoming a companion as Sally Sparrow. That was apparently offered to her for Series 4, but didn't happen.
I'm glad it didn't.
But no, I'm not first. I think she's a great one-off character. So, and we wouldn't have had more time with Donna, and for Donna to redeem herself, as we discussed, because she's such a bitch in Runaway Bride. But anyway, that's just a theory, a game theory.
What? No.
Thanks for watching.
No, don't plagiarise us. We can't afford to be
You just wish
sued.
I was as fit as Matt Pat, don't you?
I know, Matt Pat's a bit weird looking. I don't.
You used to think he was well fit, and then
used
you went,
to.
"Oh, he's married." Damn it!
No. Okay, I used to think he was fit
that's exactly
when I
what
was 18, and my taste in men was not you. Then I met you, and I was like,
Mate, your life sucks.
Yeah, I know.
You should get out more and see some sexy men,
some hotter people,
hotter
Although
boys.
I don't think it's possible to be hotter right now. I'm absolutely sweating in my office.
It's boiling. It's absolutely flipping boiling.
One of the hottest days of the year.
We're gonna go cool off. Thank you all so much for listening, and again, apologies for the wait. Blink has been probably the episode that I think you lot have been quite excited to hear,
and we've been really excited
Blink.
for it.
Yeah,
it's just
and
life.
Coming up is the 3-part finale of Series 3, because Utopia, The Sound of Drums, and The Last of the Time Lords, I would argue, is a 3-part story, and splitting them up seems kind of pointless. So we're going to do them all as one big chunk, one big kahoni. I don't know why kahoni came
We're going to have
to
try and record that on a weekend so that we actually have time to sit and watch almost 3 hours of Doctor Who back to back.
That is a very good point. I didn't think of that, Ames. We'll have to sort that out. But that will be coming your way soon-ish.
Don't ever promise that anything's
No, I know.
like
you guys know
soon.
this, and as I always mention, and I always do really appreciate you, don't hound us. Except for that one guy on
Except
Instagram.
for one person.
You
Don't
know
be
who
that
you
person.
I'm not going to name your name, mainly because I can't remember it off the top of my head, but also every post, it's like, where's the podcast?
But I'm just going to put it...
I just posted a picture of my wife.
Yeah, just going to put it out there. Don't comment on somebody's engagement post asking when the podcast is. It's not cool. Sorry, bro.
Sorry, mate.
We really appreciate you listening.
Your patience. We appreciate your time. We appreciate your support and all of the people who listen. Like, seriously, holy crap sandwiches.
Yeah, there's a lot of you.
I've got nothing on a small podcast level to compare this to, but the numbers we see are mad. So thank you so much, and we appreciate each and every one of you. If you're listening on Spotify, you can hopefully look at the little Q&A thing. It seems to be on mobile only. I can't seem to see it on desktop. That might just be me. But you can actually leave questions on Spotify, and that's where most of you guys listen according to my analytics. So please leave your questions on there. It's so good, as said, to see the fact that you guys do that, because we get most of the questions now come through
Spotify.
The Spotify Q&A thing. So
and also,
Spotify, thanks for adding that in. That's absolutely wicked.
It's great because if we forget to tweet, which we do sometimes, if we ever forget to put out a thing that says, hey, we're recording, because sometimes we do, and then like this happened, we tweeted 2 weeks ago, and then stuff happened, and things and life and sad things and just blare. It means that if we ever forget to like tweet, or we miss the tweet, or we record later, the Spotify questions, you can do them as soon as the episode goes up for the next episode, and so they will be there when we record no matter what. So it's a great way to tweet us your questions. If
I just need to have a look on Anchor to see if I can tell it to stop emailing me every time somebody does.
You probably can,
because it goes, you've got new responses to your Q&A. I'm like, cool, I know, can you stop emailing me, please?
You can't, separate email.
If you can't, Spotify, please fix.
Yeah.
But yeah, we appreciate your time. Thank you all so much for listening. We'll see you next time for Utopia. Sound of Drums, Last of the Time Lords. I was going to go this
You were close.
Return of... Well, I would be excited for the return of Captain Jack, but...
We can be excited for the return of Captain Jack without being excited for the return of John Barrowman. That's all I'm saying.
Exactly. And also someone we've not seen since the old 1980s. So, yeah, we'll see you then for that one. Until you hear our dulcet tones again.
Dulcet.
Have a wonderful few weeks. Take care. And we'll see you next time.
Bye.